All right. Well, it's been a bit. I think this might be the longest hiatus between podcast episodes, but we're back full force, new platform, Google Meets, but a very familiar face. We got Terrence Brennan here with us. Terry, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rich.
Thanks for being here on a nice Thursday night. You got the kids' spring break on the horizon.
We're there. We're there. So,
is this easier than the average week, or
is it what?
Is it more calm than the average week, or more to handle than normal?
It would be more to handle, but we're at my parents', so they're good sports. They like to watch the kids, so no problem there. It normally would be pretty rough. So,
and are you having to work remote?
I always work remote. I work from home, so I would have had to try to work and watch the kids at the same time, so that would have been tough.
Cool. So, and where are you currently? Where are your parents?
My parents are in another room.
No, I mean, where? What? Not what room? What city?
They live in Northfield, Illinois. They live in the north suburbs. So,
okay.
They're and it's easier for my wife works in Skokie, so she's loving it. She's just like got an easy commute, and so we gotta get out of here. What's that?
Well, Northfield's not too far north. I'm not familiar with it, but
yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that far north, but I want to get out of here before my wife starts wanting to move to the suburbs. So
yeah, that makes sense. That comfortability creeps in very quick. We're going to Palatine on Sunday for Easter. Can't stay more than 4 hours, or else who knows, it might be a desirable destination for life.
I mean, they that's how the devil gets you.
I heard that Wxitt just stopped to get groceries in Darien, and that was enough. Now he's there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a similar story with Frankie. He went to get gas in Wheaton, and it kept him held tight.
Yeah, right. I mean, my wife's been all about the city, and we're not going to go, raise our kids in the city and all that. And like this, I guess it's just the suburbs. You get up here, and it just feels easier. So. I don't know. I mean, I grew up around here, and I'm like, you aren't gonna like it as much as you think you will. So,
yeah, I think it's the trash on the parkway that is really detestable in the city. You see gobstoppers, you see empty water bottles, and then it's just like, I gotta get out of here. This is filthy.
I mean, I like talking to, my friends' family who all lived in the city for a little and moved up suburbs when they had kids. I like telling them stories about like my kids' experiences. Like, when we were on the bus coming back from my son at a soccer thing, and, I had the kids solo, my wife had the car, and we're going back, and my daughter sees a guy who's like passed out on the bus from like, it looked like, sad story, like an opioid kind of deal. She walks over and like scans the guy, looks at him, and turns to me and goes, "Dada, he's sleeping. We need to wake him up." I said, "No, we don't. We don't need to wake him up. That's for God. That's God's job at this point." I love telling people that story though, because I'm like, hey, my kids are getting a real experience here.
Yeah, I'm going to be getting that soon enough. Right now, he's a bit oblivious to his surroundings, but it could be any week now.
How old is? I mean, should I call him Little Richard? I don't know if that's like the greatest.
We call him Richie. So
Richie, how's Richie?
He's just over 2. So,
okay.
But he's definitely getting curious about the life around him. We went to a museum, and he was actually like engaging with the features and the way that they are meant to be engaged with. So that was a big step forward. So I can imagine if he was to like pass somebody on the street that he might comment on them, or make an assumption that would obviously be incorrect. So it's an aspect of life that we haven't had to really face head to head, but let's embrace it like you do. I think
I embrace it. I had a nice sheltered upbringing. I like exposing the kids. Not too much, but they don't need to see like a shooting or anything.
No, we're trying to avoid that trauma. I always play like, what if I were to get mugged with my child, and how calm can I remain, and like almost like play it off as though it's a friend approaching me, like, oh yeah, sure, go get, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't give that to
Oh,
you.
you need a few bucks? Wow, that's great. You need to buy a new gun? That's an awesome gun. When did you get that?
Slow down a little bit, I don't want you to get hurt or anything. Just be on your way, okay?
Hey man, I'll see you. I'll be seeing you, all right? Like, it's good to see you.
Richie, friend in the neighborhood.
I gotta say, if you mug a guy who's walking around with his toddler, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, there's probably like serious, like, violent people who are like, oh, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah, there's like serial.
Then it could be a trigger too. Like, this guy's really enjoying life, and by contrast, mine is so shitty, and might kind of set off some soft points or something. Who knows?
Right. Right.
This asshole with this child on his shoulders, like,
we teach our kids. There's not people teach the kids stranger danger. I think there needs to be more teaching the kids what to do in case someone does try to take you. Somebody, how to act if you're a hostage, essentially. So
yeah, really.
I tell them. My wife got mad at me the other day because I do this, but I said, she didn't get mad, but she was like, it's a little bit much. When I told my son, I said, look, if anyone tries to take you, you fight them right away. They tell you don't scream, because I'll tell you what, that's going to be your best chance to get away.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be like Brie Larson in Room.
That is the worst case scenario, I'd say. That's a pretty disturbing movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Growing up, it was like, I grew up so rural. We had a barn, it was unoccupied barn. My parents had horses when they first moved to California, and this barn, it had a few thieves came through in our time. They stole my specialized mountain bike that I got when I was 10 years old, and they stole a bunch of frozen hot dogs that my dad used at his hot dog restaurant. And
they were in the barn.
Yeah, he had this massive freezer in there.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, but that was my fear, like this intrusion, not into our home too, but like they had been on our property, sort of thing, and kind of more strangers in the night sort of scenario. Right. Yeah. Where now, like, that is not a concern of mine at all. It's more like walking around, I guess. It's a very, very different fears that I anticipate my son will have than what I grew up with.
But the odd thing is, like, you're in like more danger in the city, but it doesn't sound as scary as like people coming into your barn in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, right? For sure. Because there's nobody around.
That's a horror movie. The problems in the city are like an action movie.
Precisely, man. There's a lot of horror movie scenarios when I was a kid that would flash through my mind when I was washing my face and then lifting it up to see the mirror.
Do you find that it's really dark now when you're out of the city?
Oh, yeah.
You find it? Yeah, right. It's like you can't see your hand in front of your face.
I know. But now it's like you actually can see the stars, and you kind of appreciate that,
Everything's a trade-off.
Well, you might be the first guest not to take some alcohol during their episode, but
I actually just ran, so I can't have any alcohol right there.
Is that a treadmill behind you?
No, I wasn't running on a treadmill. No, actually, I should have been maybe more careful with the background, but this is a pull-away bed.
Okay.
So it's up now. My wife and I are sleeping in my dad's den, like while we're there. So cool. Yeah, so that's not a treadmill.
Are you there all week?
Yeah, we'll be there till Sunday. Cool. But the dog is in the basement where the treadmill is. So the dog is the one hating this point the most. It's like my parents can't say
the dog is super fit.
The dog's in the cage. Dog's in the cage. Not But
Yeah, I've got kind of in the spirit of there's a soccer ball in this beer. Look at that. It's called
how about
Poppycock
that?
Alarmist Brewery. I looked at it looks like it's Jefferson Park or something. What would 4055 West Peterson be? Is that still in the city?
Oh, it is. I think it's in the city. That would be what? That's Pulaski. And wait, was it 40 what?
4055.
Yeah, that'd be like Pulaski and Peterson. Peterson's in the city. Yeah, maybe Jefferson Park. I get a little confused. See, where I went to high school, there was, probably a third to 40% of the kids were from the city, but never like neighborhoods that we spend a ton of time in, right? Because it's all like the ones pretty far north. So we're like people from Jefferson Park, but like even after being in the city now for like 20 years, I still couldn't tell you exactly where Jefferson Park is.
So you went to school in Skokie or in Northfield?
I went to school in Wilmette. I went to Loyola, which is in Wilmette.
Okay.
Right on the expressway. So
Loyola High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an easy commute, for a lot of people because it's right on the expressway. But you could be in places in the city and get there in 10 minutes. So
I don't think I'm familiar with that campus where it's at. Or I don't think I've ever recognized it.
Yeah. You'd have to go decently far north. You'd have to obviously go out of the city. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a marker. I mean, it really is.
What's the best hot dog place in that vicinity?
Well, I don't know if it's there anymore, but Irvin's used to be. I'm not a big hot dog guy, but Irvin's was the place everybody went for the hot dogs. I didn't think in general it was like this, had like the greatest selection of anything, but people liked it.
Yeah, it's more of a nostalgia vibe type of thing with hot dog stands, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, right. I think the vibe is the thing. Like, did people ever talk about how good the Wiener Circle's hot dogs are? Like, they just talk about
where's the Wiener Circle? Is that the one with the really mean?
Yeah, that's the one with the mean. Right. See,
okay.
There you go. You're not talking about hot dogs. You're talking about how people are like yelling and screaming at each other.
Right. What was what's the dog from? What was that? The Jimmy Kimmel show or something? Oh, that's the Conan O'Brien show.
Oh,
right?
the insult dog.
Yeah. Didn't he spend some time at that place?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he kind of served alongside them or something. Okay. That's in Westtown, like UIC.
Well, there might be one there, but there's one in Lincoln Park at it's like Clark and Wrightwood, maybe.
Okay, right. It's on Clark, and
it's on Clark. It's like north. It's like a few blocks. It's like, I don't know, maybe 100 steps north of Wrightwood on Clark.
And you don't like hot dogs, huh?
Brats, I like. Polish sausage, I like. Don't like hot dogs.
Man.
All I can think about, I've never really liked the way they tasted, but when I found out they were mostly made out of raccoons, I was like, man, that seals the deal.
Man, I love a good red hot. Yeah, so my dad, he was from Skokie, and then he moved out to California after he met my mom in 74 or something. And he took over a Bernie's Hot Dogs, a hot dog restaurant. And
in California?
Yeah, and was the main proprietor for about 30 years or something like that, 25, 30 years. And they had these good old foot long, good snap to them.
Was it a family business? Did you work there?
I served drinks at times, but
that's what I mean. Yeah.
And I mopped and swept and stuff when I'd come in the mornings. It was it was fun. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. My mom would go to water aerobics in the morning at our local athletic center, and then I'd spend the mornings with my dad.
Where in California are you from?
This is between like Sacramento and Lake Tahoe off I-80.
Oh, okay.
So it's the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, so pretty rural. But
okay.
Yeah, so I grew up eating a lot of hot dogs, and I always only ate cheese and ketchup as a kid, as kids do.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't consume many hot dogs nowadays, but man, I really love hot dogs.
Yeah.
It's in my bones. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're in Chicago.
Sure.
You're in Chicago. You got like meat, right?
Yeah, but
Right.
it's also extremely unhealthy, these hot dogs. So that's the thing. It's amazing. Like in California, there's no popular unhealthy foods.
Oh, meaning like people don't really like the unhealthy foods?
Yeah, it might be like a cheat food, but like you don't see hot dog stands. It blew my mind to see how many unhealthy options there are
in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not known as like the healthiest city. It's known as like, meat packing and like people like steaks and burgers and all that, all that stuff that's really heavy. But it's not quite Milwaukee. Milwaukee really has a reputation there, but
sure.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get back to you. You got one brother, is that right? An older brother?
I have one brother, yeah.
Older brother.
No, a younger brother.
Oh, younger brother. Okay.
Yeah. I have a younger sister and a younger brother.
Oh, you have a younger sister too. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, the oldest in the family.
I am the oldest. Yes,
you carry that responsibility. I
do carry that.
A mentor.
I think my brother doesn't listen to me. Wouldn't listen to me anyway. My sister's pretty close in age to me, so I don't think she was really too keen on listening to me either.
So, what are the age differences?
My sister is like 22 months younger than me. So she was actually a grade in school, but only one grade below me in school because she's on like the young end. I was on the old end. And then my brother's 5 years younger.
So you're never all in the same high school together or anything like that?
No. I mean, my sister and I were, in school together for a while, but, drive to school together every day. But, we were both out of school by the time he got to high school.
Okay. And you grew up in Northfield?
I grew up actually more in Lake Forest. I was like even further north. So
this isn't your childhood home that you're in?
This is not my childhood home. No.
No. Okay. And grew up playing organized soccer, I take it?
I played a little growing up, but
really?
I played like a bunch of different sports, but I played a little bit growing up. Like relative to people now who play soccer, I didn't do it very much. Like I would say, like at the time, it felt like I maybe did, but I would say I didn't play much from I played from probably like 10 to 16. Like I was like playing on any kind of real team. So
you weren't playing seasonally for?
I mean, I was playing seasonally like a little bit. I mean, maybe it's like 8 to 16. But when I was after my sophomore year in high school, I decided I'd run full time. So I just quit soccer and I didn't do it again for a while.
Interesting. I always assumed that you played on organized teams and
no, not really. Not really. You have to remember, I'm a lot older than you. So like, soccer wasn't as much of a thing. I mean, it was still a thing, but
what are you? You're mid-40s, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean it was, and you see now, but anyway, long story short, I got out of college. I stopped, competing as a runner a year out of college, and then I needed I've always liked soccer, so I was like, hey, what the hell? I'm gonna get back into it. I kind of got a little obsessed, and here I am.
You got obsessed more so with like the culture, or you got on a team?
I would say just like the game. It's been a little bit gradual, but now I'd say, when I first started playing at Sen, I would play like 3 times a week, and I couldn't get enough of it. And then life responsibility comes up, so you start to, things start to encroach on that. But so then started playing in the leagues with everyone, but I mean now, now I even watch the game a lot. So
your peak years are what, like mid 2010?
Peak years at Joel's thing?
Just playing in general. Less frequency.
I would say like between 2010 and 2015, I was playing a lot.
Right.
You know, it's kind of tapered off since then a little bit, but I was
And
playing a lot.
You'd say that's when you were most confident too, as a
As
player, as a
I
person.
I don't know if I've ever been all that confident as a player. Yeah, maybe. I think I've never had the I think like skill wise, I've probably like gotten gradually better as like athletically I've gotten like much worse. So
Right.
it's tough to really there was never too much to be confident about. That's what I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, you know, with most all of us now, especially in these over 30s, over 40s leagues, like I feel like a lot of us are actually in our playing peak in terms of like effectiveness on the field, even though we're long past our physical primes.
Yeah.
I like to think that. I think when I go out and like play a pickup, I'm much more efficient than I probably ever have been. Maybe I'm not making the spectacular plays or getting past defenders or something like that. But
I feel like I understand I feel like my understanding of the game is like this kind of like a trend line because I like came in without really much understanding at all. So it's like it keeps, you know, I always I have a lot to learn. So it's like I learn more and more. So like now I understand things that I just didn't get before. So like that's kind of cool. You know, you like learn it better.
Your brother's a player though, right?
My brother was a Division I player. But and he wouldn't say he played professionally. I would say he played at a low professional level and then got concussioned out of this concussed
Really?
out of the sport. Yeah.
Just multiple concussions?
Yeah, he got like 2 or 3 in like a short period of time. And he was always like he was like a defender and he was pretty aggressive and he would like, you know, so he probably got more concussions than he even knew. I think that was maybe his logic. He's like, you know, because concussions, no one thought much of concussions till like what, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Will Smith, really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, tell the truth. But yeah, anyway, so you know, I think that probably did him in. But
Does he play at all?
no,
Now?
he'll tell me that he wants to play on a team. Like, hey, you got a team for me, you got a team for me. And like I'm like, you know, that last time I had you on, you played in like the first game and didn't like come back.
Yeah.
But I think the way I would still say, hey, come on out. But I'm like a little bit more, I'm not as involved with the teams I play on as I used to be. So it's like I feel a little bit weirder saying like, hey, can you do my brother a solid, even though like work might cut in and he's like can't really do it as much. So
you don't think his reluctance is like a fear of
no, I think he would know to like he wouldn't go into a challenge or something if he thought he was going to get a concussion. I think you'd be more likely to see him like back off of it now because he kind of knows it's not really worth it to like knock somebody over to get the ball.
Yeah, you don't think so. And then it's the final and you start to be pressured by your peers and teammates.
Right. Come on, Rich, what was that?
I mean, it's really hard to back out of a header or a challenge, you know, especially.
I find now though, I'm so much slower than I used to be that like I am a little more tentative because I'm like, man, if I don't get this guy's gone. This guy has passed me. Whereas when you're younger and you're a little faster, you can make a few more mistakes because you can recover. So, you know, if you go in, you try to get it, you miss, you can turn around, recover. You know, you can't do that as much when you're older.
And you went, where'd your brother play D1 soccer?
He played at Holy Cross and then he transferred to Middlebury for his last 2 years. So, which is not Division I, but they did win the D3 national championship. As I point out to him, though, the year after he left.
And you went to Duke, right?
I went to Duke, yeah.
For undergraduate and law school?
I went to law school at Northwestern,
Okay.
which is in the city, which is actually in the city. The law school is in the city, so it was not. It was hard to even when people talk about Northwestern, like the main school, you're like, oh yeah, I do go there, because it was just like going to some city campus.
What were your law school years?
03 to 06.
Okay. All right. And you've been practicing ever since?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in 09, when everyone lost their jobs, I would say I've been practicing, but aggregate, I've probably missed a year that whole time just because of like upheaval with the economy and everything. Well, like in 09, I worked at a big firm out of law school. And in 09, all kinds of people at those places lost their jobs. So, and it wasn't the easiest to get them, like to get another one. Like some firm would be like hiring and there'd be like 100, I mean, not exaggerating, like 100 qualified people who would, throw their hat in the ring for one spot. So it was like a little rough. Like, so probably if you totaled it up, I was probably a year out. I probably missed a year. So,
and you're with a firm now, or you have a private?
I'm independent. I work on my own.
Okay. So, that's what I thought. And this is, what's the focus?
I do general litigation, but I'm kind of like trying to specialize a little more. I do mostly, right? I try to do like work with financial professionals, like stuff that they've got, like financial planners, accountants, etc. I like to, and then I'm trying to do more judgment enforcement, which is like you get a judgment, it's not very good unless the person pays it. So sometimes you got to go after them and find it, pay it, make them pay it. And then, which is like more interesting than it sounds because people like try to hide money and stuff. So you're like trying to find it. And then I would like to do something soccer related, but I haven't found kind of a niche there.
How many billboards do you have throughout the city?
You know what's funny? I was talking to somebody like a law school or a lawyer friend of mine the other day, and it was just like a networking, like, hey, how you doing? And he told me that he goes, those billboards, those people on the billboards a lot of times don't really practice. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, like a few of them have, and this is like ingenious. I'm not like knocking these people. I'm like praising them. They'll buy the billboard, or maybe they have a few, and they'll have their phone number on there for like, if you've been in an accident, call Glenn and Lerner at this number. Mm-hmm. And it goes into an automated, if you call, it goes into an automated system and it kicks it out to like 4 or 5 personal injury firms that are like top-notch personal injury firms. And these firms pay this guy like monthly to be one of the referrals. Right. So this guy or this so-called firm, it might be a real law firm or like began as a real law firm, but all they do is they just have an automated system that refers this stuff out and he makes passive income just because he's got this billboard. And when I heard this, I'm like, so he just like sits on a boat somewhere and like drinks and like chills while he makes money. He's like, yeah, basically, yeah. Like unless the system breaks down for some reason.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a Curious City episode on all the billboards, on all the litigation billboards in Chicago. I don't remember. Do you know Curious City podcast? It's like they have different versions across the country for different major cities, and it's basically listeners of public radio asking questions, specific to the city they inhabit. And this one was kind of talking about why there are so many billboards for lawyers throughout the city, and specifically on like the southwest sides. And I don't really remember the basis of what was explored, but I don't think that was mentioned. So, but it makes a lot of sense. I can see. And I always wonder, like, well, how is this person getting so much business? You see them everywhere.
Right. Well, and
So,
plus you can only do so many cases, right?
uh-huh,
I mean, if you're saying, hey, you've been in an accident, you've had an injury, you've had this, give me a call. Well, like 90% of your calls are going to be people who don't have cases. So how are you like processing all these calls and like doing all this work that it makes sense to do that? And the answer is you're not.
yeah.
But
So
it is interesting. It is. I'm sorry. My wife, lived on the west side of Chicago in Lawndale, which is like a poor neighborhood,
right.
and it was amazing to me when I would go there how many more personal injury lawyer advertisements there were in the, you're saying like Southwest side, you see them all over the place. It was like it was everywhere. So it was kind of interesting to me that it was like this was the heavy place for advertising.
So with that said, how many people come to you without a case? What is it like? As high as you said, 90?
It depends on like the referral source, really. So like, if you've got, I get referred cases mostly by other attorneys, but like some attorneys are referring me cases because they've got a hybrid of what the billboard thing is about, where they're like, they'll get cases, they've like maybe paid for a spot high up on the Google search, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's for a type of law maybe they don't do. And so when these calls come in, they say, okay, well, we don't do this, but why don't you talk to Terry? And so those, and then I'll pay them whatever I get. I'll pay them like a percentage of whatever I make, like, 25% or whatever.
Sure.
Those, like 90% of them, it's like, sorry, because someone's situation's bad doesn't mean they have a case. Yeah. And so you're like, hey man, like that's unfortunate. I don't think I've ever gotten a call with someone who wasn't sympathetic, but I don't do personal injury. These are other kinds of cases. But so out of those, it's like 90% you don't have much going on. But like others where an attorney will call me and say, hey, I got something I can't take, or I got somebody this isn't in my area of law. Those are like the reverse. Those are like 90% are real cases that I can do. So
what kind of avenue do you see in the footballing world that you might be able to get your foot in?
I don't know. I was officially an agent for a little while. I didn't have I think I don't really know that you could say I had clients. I had people I said, hey, I'll see what I can do for you, but I don't have a lot of contacts, and like it's a contacts business. So I kind of did that just to see what it was like. I didn't think it was like terribly interesting, to be honest. But so I don't know if I'll do the agent thing, although it is interesting that you get on a mailing list and like, so I'll get emails probably during a transfer window. I'll get a lot of emails that I'm on, like, that are emails to tons of people. And it is interesting to hear all of the people from some obscure place who are like want to play in the United States or want like help with an agent, and they all have like a lot of them have highlight films. So you get to, I'll watch their highlight films. It's kind of interesting to see all these people. But and like the thing is, most of them are pretty good, but it's like there's so many good players that it's
I mean the parody out there is
exactly
right now, right?
You're like, okay, great, that's great, but I think a lot of them also don't realize that it's like a lot more difficult to get a spot in a U.S. team than they think. They're like, oh well, hey, like I played in like the 4th division in France, and like I was in the academy I made it to the U19 team for like Monaco, and look at my tape, and you're like, oh yeah, you're good, right? You're good. And he's like, so can you help me get in with like MLS or maybe a USL team? And you're like, I don't think you quite get it. Like, you don't have a visa. You're not like, there's like a restriction on the amount of foreigners in an MLS team. They have a salary cap. They have a minimum salary. So it's not like they can say like, well, you're not that great. We're going to pay you 50 grand. Like if you're on the
Sure.
team, they got to pay you, $80,000 a year. And like, that's kind of a commitment. And like, they got all kinds of other people in the United States who they can sign for those like kind of low level spots. So they're, it's a lot tougher than I think a lot of foreigners realize, because the market's it's not really a free market either. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot tougher. You have to explain to people that like, yeah, I think like your impression of like Europe, where teams are like, oh, hey, I found this diamond in the rough player who's cheap. Like, of course I'm going to sign him. It's not exactly how it works in the United States.
How useful do you think it would be for a player trying to get signed or recognized to actually give more like a personal character sort of reference to themselves, and like give them some sort of exceptionality based on their history or their being?
You mean like another person?
Yeah, like almost making, if you just look at a bunch of highlights, it's really difficult to set yourself apart from the rest. But if you were to actually give some, human story and make you pull on the heartstrings a bit, is that something that these players are doing, or is it even an option?
I think it would be great. I think really it's like MLS seems like a little bit random. Like if they come across you, they might take a chance, right? But it's like, but it's got to be easy, right? Because like an MLS team, like if they're getting a foreign guy, usually they can fill all their foreigner spots with people who are like from like first divisions in other places, or like if it's the big leagues, second, third division. But like, so if they want to get a Japanese guy, they're not like looking at some third division guy in Japan, they're looking at like guys who play for good teams there. So, yeah, maybe the personal story would be something. I think it could be something, but it's hard. I wasn't in enough to like quite understand exactly what they're looking for. Like I didn't get, under the surface enough to kind of like figure that out. I think a lot of them are just like, for them, like scouting is what they do for foreign players. So if they didn't scout you, they're just going to take an American for that spot.
Do you think you would serve as a good scout? You think you have what it takes to recognize talent?
I don't know, but I think I'm better at recognizing talent than I am at understanding like the game, maybe. But like, so this is maybe a skeleton in the closet, but I'm willing to be honest. Like when I wake up after I take the kids to school every morning, I go for a run, and then I start my day, right? And as I'm like kind of eating breakfast, stretching, whatever, I'll put on YouTube, you can find like all kinds of youth games. So I'm like, hey, maybe I could improve my eye as for talent if I watched these things. So you watch both like the current ones and you watch old ones, because the old ones you already know how the player turns out. So you're like, oh, okay, well, like what distinguished, take your pick, at the youth level, right? So I think that I could probably pick out the guys who could be pros, but it's only because it ends up being really obvious. Like anyone who kind of knows the game could do the same thing. It's like you're watching the game and you're like, okay, yeah, he's good. And then you see something, you're like, whoa, oh, that wasn't like I've been watching. That guy struck the ball in a way that I see the guys on Saturdays and Sundays strike the ball. Whereas like none of the other guys did. That guy.
So this is more athleticism, technique, intuition, composure. Like what? So you're saying more technique?
And anything that doesn't look like it's essentially one of these things is not like the others. So you see something. I mean, just like size or something like that wouldn't work. But like something I did pick up that from like watching older stuff is that like central defenders, like defenders, a lot of those guys were not necessarily playing well in the games that we're on, but they had like an athleticism and like a command. And I don't mean like athleticism, like raw athleticism, like coordination and like the way they moved was like unusual.
Yeah.
So there you kind of like pick out the guys who kind of made it, but it's usually not like athleticism. It's usually just like it's usually just touch, the way they hit, the way they strike the ball. Like some guy, you'll be watching and you're kind of just like following along and in a little bit of a kind of trance like kind of thing, and then all of a sudden someone will hit some shot where you're like, whoa, what was that? And like that's usually one of the people who maybe could. Now, like out of even those guys, like it's like 30% are going to actually make it. But
with having done a good deal of coaching in the past and like having things like tryouts, being introduced to players for the first time, or a big set of kids. When you put on that lens of like who's good here and who's bad, when you're talking about young kids, it's kind of clear who has been around the ball a lot and who hasn't. But I feel like I become very objective when my intention is to distinguish the best players. Whereas when I'm not looking at the game through that lens, I don't know if I even really do it at all. Like if I turn on a Premier League game between two teams that I don't typically watch, I don't know how much I'm looking at the best players.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was my daughter. She decided to come in. She goes, "What's his name?" I would have introduced you, but my mom went and got her.
I like the appearance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're saying that you don't look out for the best players when you're watching like a Premier League game.
Yeah, I'm more so watching the action.
Yeah.
But if it's my duty, then I feel like I'm good at it. But maybe I'm just totally delusional, and I think I know who's the best, and I'm not really a good judge of it.
I think if you're looking for any quality that's not common amongst the group, like I think you can, if it's something and I mean, like, I'm not saying that like the game like Pep, but like the game, right?
Yeah.
So it's something you're watching people do it, and you're just like, oh, well, that's something different. That's something that's like at a level that like I'm not watching with all of the other guys.
Sure.
I think you could probably, I mean, I think it's not delusional. I think you're probably picking out the best guys. The only thing
is I guess one interesting element too is the best guy always what's best for the team too? And I think that's really difficult to determine, is like, if this player is actually going to create a, like as a utilitarian point of view, create the most good or whatever.
Yeah, right. I think the teams do that more with like guys who are already pros. Like, okay, well, we need more possession. So like, let's find a guy who does that. Whereas I think with the youth guys, they're like, let's just find talent. And at some point, maybe he doesn't fit, but like, he's got a better chance of fitting than this guy who doesn't have as much talent. I think that's kind of how they look at it. And, if they get a few guys, great, they'll find a way to fit them in. But, I think that's more kind of how they look at it. Like with you're building a team. So there it's maybe a little different.
And, in terms of pro leagues, like the higher up on the totem pole, the more discerning you can be, or the more selective you can be with who you're going to take on. And then you can start looking at things like personality or where on the field they'll fit. Because I feel like, the modern managers, like Pep's not taking a personality onto his team that is not going to sync well with the locker room and the other individuals. And I feel like that's almost as important as everything else at that stage.
My general take on Man City right now is that it's mostly Pep. Like, yeah, they got talent. They got a ton of talent. But, like, I don't think they're necessarily, like, I mean, yeah, compared to Burnley, they're, like, you know, spending, I mean, even compared to, like, West Ham, they're, like, spending money and getting better players. But, like, to be dominating, like, the rest of the Premier League the way they have lately, I feel like they don't have, like, a ton more talent than, like, the top Premier League teams. But it is, you know, like, the fit is perfect with everybody.
Right. And he's very selective in that way, right? Like he couldn't do it with any players. He knows the exact players that he needs to fit into it.
Yeah, right.
Mean, you look at like Kovacic, right? Like,
yeah.
It seems.
Well, I mean, like the fact that he comes up with, like, apparently he saw Ederson, like, he's preparing for a game with Bayern Munich in Champions League, and they're playing, I don't know what Portuguese team Ederson played for. But he's, like, watching the clips, like, preparing for the game, and, like, he stops it, like, midway through. He's like, who is this guy? You know, this guy's pinging passes all over the field, getting it right to guys. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, you see players, too, will play better there than you remembered them playing. Like, he took Akanji from Dortmund, and, like, Akanji was, like, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, oh, well, that guy's like a play for Man City. But, like, he looked way better with Pep, you know? Like, he found some way to, you know, make him a player. So, you know, I thought it was, like, it's kind of like evidence of it. Like, I don't know if Bernardo Silva's good, whatever team you put him on, you know?
Right, yeah. Do you feel like you play up to higher competition? Is that part of your game?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like when you play lower, do you feel this way? Like when you play, like, I'm talking like lower competition, like, you know, like we'll play one of the worst, like the lesser teams in our league, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it throws your timing off a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely on the sidelines. Like, how are we not dominating this game? And there must be something to it. Is it like a psychological hurdle, like where we don't want to stomp on these guys so bad, or is it?
I feel like it's like the ball doesn't do, like, when you're like defending them, for example, like the ball comes at you in a way that, like, it doesn't with everyone else. Like, kind of like messes with your timing. Like, you go to trap the ball, but like the ball's not moving the same way it does.
There's something for that.
Yeah, I feel like there's something that throws your timing off with that. Like, you're kind of used to it going one way and then it's going a different way.
I know what you mean for sure. Like, there's advantage in like unorthodoxy, and when you're playing against it, then
right,
you have to calibrate. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't. I say that, I asked that question because, like, soccer is interesting. Like, I played a pickup, the lunch CFRS pickup yesterday at noon, and play with just a bunch of
those are going on. Yeah,
dude, I love them so much because I miss playing with random people, and it's just such a different game. It's just such a different goal or objective or challenge to, like, make the most of the people around you and kind of find your footing, and to be anonymous with what position you play, and to kind of role play a bit with, like, I'll play up, or I'm a winger.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know, I get it.
And especially I found it extremely encouraging too. Like, everyone was very positive out there, and that left a good impression on me. But you
don't live near there, do you?
Yeah, I live very near. So
you do?
I bike to games a lot, so I live about a mile away. So it's
all right. Convenient. Are you still in Albany Park?
No, we moved from Albany Park to Lincoln Square. So now I'm off of like Western and Lawrence, more or less.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's like a lunch hour thing. You can go and play.
I was on spring break this week, so that's why I was able to play this week.
All right. Okay.
But During the summer, I intend to do more. Have you ever done one?
I haven't. I didn't even know they existed until my son did a soccer camp at the fire pitch.
Right.
And when I dropped him off, I saw these like older people going by, and like, when you got little kids, like a bunch of older men show up, you're like, wait, what's going on? But I'm joking. But I said to one of the people, I was like, well, what's going on here? Because you see people getting ready for a pickup game, right?
Yeah.
And he just told, he said like, hey, they got these games every day. I think he
More
said
or less every
day.
Two every day, 7 a.m. and noon.
Yeah, which it's encouraging that you can fill those games, every day.
But dude, I tried to sign up for tomorrow's game because I don't know if there's going to be much space to play tomorrow night. But you being out might give me a little wiggle room there.
I never thought you'd be my backup, but
well, I didn't pay for the session, so I'm
right.
I'm everybody's backup at this point. But yeah, tomorrow 46 spots filled for the lunchtime session, 28 for the morning session, and that's $15 a player too. So they're making a nice little pocket
Is there a
change
wait?
there.
I mean, does everyone get in? Do they find a game for everyone, or are you like on a wait list?
Yeah, they filled it. I don't even know if there's a possibility for a wait list. It just fills. And
okay.
There's no.
But you don't have Joel. You don't have Joel like, you got off the wait list, 10 minutes before the game started. What the hell? You owe me money.
No, from my experience, maybe it's just the time of day, but it feels much more calm. I've never seen any outrage then, because I think a lot of like the Joel stuff, you come in fresh off of work, and professional frustrations.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think of that, but I mean, I still, in a way, the guy kind of amazes me. Like, it's such a well-run pickup for one not intimidating guy. Yeah. When you think about it, like, he's been doing this for a while. He manages it. It's like, it never really descends into like chaos, like
there's been moments, I think.
There's moments maybe, but like, I would say 90% of the time, it's like well run enough that like you have a real game. Like, it might not be like the best game in the world, but like to do that so frequently for so many years and keep that going, and like he basically does it on his own. I gotta say, maybe I don't praise Joel. I haven't seen Joel in a while, but he does a good job.
No, I mean, I mentioned the word utilitarian before. Like, I think of somebody like him, how much just he's given to the community in terms of like just happiness and release for so many thousands of people for decades now. It's incredible. Like he's offered this amazing resource that obviously has contributed great things to our lives, and he's probably done just as much as so many others. I'm sure there's people
when he keeps it like, it's people, it's people from all different communities, and people like, every now and then there's a fight or something, but it's like, and a lot of times the fights are Joel's fault, but like, I mean, it's still like, he keeps it pretty nice, like people aren't usually, getting in each other's faces or anything. And it's, it's usually, I don't know if it's family friendly, but it's usually, kind of pleasant enough.
Yeah, no, I have little visions of taking my son there in like 6 years time, like for his first game, like, all right, go easy on him. He's too young to be here, but I just wanted to be exposed to, some pickup.
I'm afraid I would be afraid that one of my kids would dribble too much and I'd end up yelling at him to pass it. You're killing the game. Pass the ball.
You remember some of the young kids that would hop in who were like sons of members, right?
Didn't Joel's kids would play Joel, I think he maybe a daughter who would play.
Yeah, his daughter played a bit.
Yeah. But
No,
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
you'd have
Those are
the
different
young
ones.
kids. The young kids would jump in every now and then. The people's kids would jump in every now and then.
Well, he even
But
then started like his own little youth session because I coached a few sessions. Did you
oh
ever?
yeah, oh that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, it was more or less just like giving kids a place to play. I don't think there were many like drills or anything, but that's really more or less what I want from my son. Like, I don't want him to do drills. I just want him to be with other kids, have a couple of goals, and like figure it out, you know? Um,
My big thing is like, I want my kids to, when they're younger, to like have the ball. I don't care if it's a drill, if they're
yeah,
touching the ball the whole time, you know, like they'll
that's a good
do
point. Yeah,
in the soccer thing that they do. Like when he first started out, my son, my daughter hasn't really done anything yet, but like when my son first started out, he'd play in this league that was like just people from like his school would come on like a Saturday and they'd have their teams or whatever. And it was 2-year age groups, and he's kind of a small kid, and like he didn't really do much. Like the ball
yeah,
didn't come his way, and like it didn't do much. And then so we're like, all right, well, let's do this other one where they say that they're gonna be like kids that bring their own ball and they're spending a lot of time like dribbling, and then they'll maybe scrimmage. And like that changed everything. Like they'll because sometimes they'll be like, all right, guys, look, for the next 10 minutes, just dribble around and do whatever you want with the ball.
yeah.
And like, you know, some kids like just dribble and don't do anything. But like
All
a
right.
lot of kids now are like trying things. They don't come off usually, but like they're trying things. And so it's kind of cool to see the kids come up with their own stuff. But like, yeah, that's more of my thing. Like you're not going to know if you like to play unless you like to have the ball.
Yeah, that's
You know?
true. I guess I romanticize like the favela mindset of like, oh, I'll just put kids on a field
Oh
and
yeah, but
let them play.
that could work.
But you're right. I mean, it is like you do spend 95% of the time without the ball, and maybe even more if you're not one of the, you know,
Yeah.
lead players
So
on the pitch. So,
it is, and you've seen like because a few kids have done this program throughout the thing, and you see the kids have gotten a lot better. Now, granted, you're going to improve a lot between the ages of like 4 and 6, right? If you're just like playing because you're going from
yeah,
nothing to something. But yeah, they do improve a lot. Now, the moves they teach these kids, like they don't. I think they got to be just to like touch the ball because the moves they teach these kids like are like things that I remember only like professionals doing. Like he's like, okay, the first one, he's like, all right, kids, and we do the Ronaldo chop, and he shows like the move, you know, and like this guy is like a good player, you know, and so like he could do it. But like these kids, I'm like, these are 5-year-old kids, like they're and so they jump around, none of them are coming close.
yeah,
And then he's like, now we do an elastico. And I'm like, an elastico? Like, I mean, Ronaldinho did those in commercials. And like, you know, but I guess he's like, I talked to him afterwards, just kind of like, I wasn't even talking about that. And he mentions like, you know, none of these kids are gonna be able to do that. But
yeah,
when you do an elastico, like your foot is on the ball the whole time. So it's like a good thing to do. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I even felt I was coaching U9 out in Oak Park, and I felt like this pressure to like teach them, you know, these skills that I had never learned when I was playing youth
yeah.
soccer. And you know, there's things like the Cruyff turn that are easy enough, but then there's like little moves that like I'd have to kind of rehearse them before I showed them to these 8-year-old girls.
Right.
It's like, wait, do I not know how to play this game well enough
Because you
to
got to
like,
do it.
yeah,
If you can't do it, like the lesson's over, right?
exactly. And then you're worrying about like actual you're playing on actual grass and little divots, and then you're hampered by that, and then you just look like an asshole. And it's I don't know. It's funny how you start to question your own skills even at like the lowest level of coaching. But
When
um
you start to think about where the floor is, you like, you know, you're like, well, am I that far above the floor? right?
We had this summer camp guy that would come to our high school and do these 2 week sessions. We do like 3 hours a day for 2 weeks. And his name was Gerard Hilkema, and he was legitimately Dutch. And all of us, we had no knowledge of professional soccer history or current at that point. And but this guy is like overly tan, leathery skin. He was very sinewy, had these beautiful blue eyes. He came with his sons who were just like, out of the Third Reich. It was like these amazing like forces that were so uncommon for that rural California. And they could do things with the ball that we could never dream of. He'd have us like juggling was a big aspect of these camps. And those things left an impression on me. I think I probably fell in love with this notion of European soccer as being very glamorous. And in those days,
I mean, yeah, we're actually going to Europe in like 2 weeks, so it'll be interesting. We're going to be in Amsterdam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look up Gerard Hilkema.
Gerard Hilkema. I'm saying it's all like, my wife's all about like, we're gonna see the tulips, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. What about a tour of the Ajax facilities?
Yeah, you got big shoes to fill in the footy fellas chat. I mean, with the likes of Carlos, and I feel like Max has done some stadium tours, and
we're taking a train to Dortmund. We're gonna see Dortmund Leverkusen.
Oh yeah, right.
On a Sunday, so Sunday night. So the youth game is the day before, so I'm not gonna be able to. I was like, nah, you're not gonna let me do that. She's like, no, we're not going in like a day before. She's not interested in being in Germany. In fact, I don't even know if I'm going to like Dortmund as a city. I'm
it's
looking
pretty industrial. I went there once.
Oh yeah,
I went to a mining museum in Dortmund actually.
Well, I've heard that it's like it is like the industrial heartland of Germany or whatever.
Yeah, but, I mean, I didn't explore much. I was 20, 21 or something, but I remember making an ass of myself in Dortmund. That's always fun.
I mean, I've made an ass of myself in plenty of cities. You don't need to be Dortmund for that to happen. But but I'm like curious about it. I'm like, I wonder what it's. I kind of wonder what it's like. But she's got celiac, and Germany like soaks everything in beer. So beer is not gluten-free. So she can't eat a lot of stuff there. So like that's kind of like that's why we're kind of going in and out. I mean and like I don't know that Dortmund can fill a week of your time, the way Amsterdam probably can. But
that's fun.
I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll go there and we'll have like the greatest 24 hours of our lives, and we'll be like, hey, we gotta get back. But
they're not too far from each other either, right? Like a 2-hour ICE.
I think it's 3.5 is our train ride. But
okay.
I don't know. That doesn't bother me either. I mean, I check out. I haven't been to Europe in a long time, so check out things as I go by. Just kind of see the sights.
Are your kids going or just
no? It's just us. Yeah, just me and my wife.
Sweet, man. So, I'd be. You're very much looking forward to it. I take it, huh?
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how many things I can get to go to in Amsterdam. I'm trying to turn it into like soccer tourism. And my wife's like, nah, I don't know about that. I mean, like, I'm looking forward to the other aspects of Amsterdam too. But we just found out yesterday that Anne Frank's house is all sold out. So that was like a big thing. Hey, we'll go to Amsterdam. We'll see Anne Frank's house. They had like there was like a Hulu series on Anne Frank, right? So we saw that and we're like, oh yeah, like that'd be cool. Like see where they hid out and all that, and like sold out. So
yeah, you got Van Gogh Museum, you got Rembrandt.
Oh yeah, we'll see. Yeah, there are plenty of other things, but there was a my wife's looking at new things last night, and she says, "Well, there's a museum of prostitution," and I said, and she kind of laughs like, "Oh, ha ha," and I'm like, I gotta say, like, maybe you'll think this is ulterior motives, but like, I actually think that might be kind of interesting.
No, it'd be interesting. I think I went to a museum of torture in Amsterdam, if I
Oh,
remember
we'll check that
correctly.
out too.
Yeah,
Was
you
it the
should
good? Was
definitely
it the
see it.
good kind of torture or the bad kind of torture?
It was bad torture.
Oh, it was the
It was,
torture where they try to get information from you?
eh, what's the good type of torture?
Well, the torture that people like.
Oh no, it's not like sexual torture.
Not me personally. But
No, it was bad torture. It was
yeah.
like Iron Maiden type stuff, you know.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, no, I definitely did that in Amsterdam. That was fun.
Yeah.
Um, but that's great, man. I love Amsterdam. Have you
Yeah.
been?
I've never been. No. No.
Sweet.
I
Where
haven't like seen the world as much as I'd like to. So we're looking forward to it. It was like I don't know if it's a bucket list kind of thing, but it was like as soon as we had like the window to do it, we were like, hey, no, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, it's more expensive than like like South America is like not as expensive, but it's not too bad. Like a lot of the stuff, I mean, seeing the Dortmund game, like when they came to Chicago last summer and I didn't go, like the tickets to that game were probably more than the tickets to like a real like a game that counts, like really counts against like the team that's leading the league right now.
Yeah.
It's probably like the same amount. Like, so you could sit in like the third deck at Soldier Field and watch a meaningless game. It costs the same amount of money as it does to see like a real game in their real stadium. And I'm like, man, like we just charge people too damn much for soccer these days.
So what draws you to the club?
I wanted to adopt a club. So I picked one club in Spain that's on YouTube every week. And they're in like they were in the third division, they got promoted, and then they went bankrupt. So then they reconstituted in like the 8th division. So they've got like, I think their stadium probably looks just as cool as Dortmund's. It's like they got a cool stadium. It's small, but I'm like, when they get a little better, I'm gonna make that one a spot too. But I wanted to pick a German club. I liked how the fans owned the clubs there.
Yeah, that's
so I kind of looked. I mean, I like thought about it, and I'm like, they're not like winning the league every year. They supposedly have so like if they were to win, it would be like a big thing, right? But they're like good enough that they're still in it a lot. And yeah, so it was going to be them or Freiburg. And I was like, I think we'll go Dortmund.
Yeah, Freiburg's a great choice. Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to go someplace. I wanted to be someplace where I would like want to go see a game.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Freiburg's beautiful, right?
Freiburg too.
I'm from all area.
Yeah, Freiburg too. But it's still like yeah, anyway, so like that was kind of the logic behind it. And like when I learned like a lot more about soccer, like following specific clubs. You like learn like just like why teams sell guys, what they're trying to do with like the youth play. Like you just like learn a lot more about the practicalities of it when you're following one club that you kind of don't pick up as much if you're just like on neutral. So it's like kind of interesting, like like how clubs are not like really selling to make money. They'd rather hold on to the guys and like that kind of thing. So they're
who's your favorite player on the team right now?
I don't know. They're really not into having good players on their team right now. I really like I would have said Emre Can a few years ago, but he's kind of like lost it. And he's like a lightning rod in a way because the sporting director wanted to sign Edson Alvarez, and the coach has like this ugly way he wants to play, like very direct. And like Alvarez was what the sporting director wanted because then they could like keep possession in midfield and like do things. But the coach wanted Emre Can and he won out. So he's a little bit of like a lightning rod because he won out and he picked this other guy who gets hurt all the time. It's like they're signing. So it's like the team hasn't been quite as good, even though they're still in the Champions League. But
and then what are they, fourth in the league right now?
They are fourth, although it's close. They are not guaranteed. They're not by no means guaranteed a Champions League spot for next year.
Yeah, this is their worst season
in a while.
Yeah.
And the coach is very difficult to fire. Nobody wants, because he's the chairman of the club loves him. He grew up a Dortmund fan. He grew up near the stadium. And so they're like, he has passion for the team, you know.
What's his name? Terzic?
Terzic, Edin Terzic.
Okay.
And he had a good year last year.
Or?
I mean, he's German, but I think, yeah,
he's German. Okay.
Name. But he had a good year last year. You know, in the end, he had a good year. But, you know, you're looking at it now and you're just like, all right, well, he doesn't have Bellingham anymore. And they were pretty damn bad without Bellingham last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, so he's like, his theory is going to be, you know, he's alienated a lot of the young talent there. And you're like, geez. So you got this like season that's a struggle, but you don't feel like it's building toward anything at the same time, because like these young guys who are talented are like not really still, like they want to leave because they're not playing. And then, you know, I think their theory might be that like we can't compete from a cost standpoint. So we're going to take like older veteran guys and try to play like sloppy and grind out wins. And these guys are going to stay. We're not going to be selling them. So there'll be continuity. I don't know. Maybe that's their theory.
Yeah, I mean, and that's never really been their makeup, right?
No, I don't think. Yeah, if that's their theory. If that's their theory, I don't like it. But
yeah,
you know, they and to be honest, they could have gotten. They could be where they are at in the league with a lot of different team. You know, with a lot of different makeups of their team. So it's not like what they did is like, you know, keeping them afloat or anything. They could have taken more chances with younger guys and been just as good. So so yeah, anyway, it's you read some of like the message boards and the Twitter stuff, people are upset. They're like, you know, there's three guys they mentioned a lot who didn't get in or don't get in a lot. That's like this guy Mukoko, who was like probably the best 14-year-old player ever. And he's now 19. He doesn't play, even though he's good. Another guy from England named Jamie Bino Gittins doesn't play that much, even though he was really good in the Champions League. And Gio Reyna. So people are saying, like, you got these three guys.
But Gio's gone, right?
He's on loan. Now, that's a whole other story.
Okay.
That's a whole other story. My theory is they don't have a purchase option on there because the sporting director really likes him. And he's like, hey, man, go on loan, see if you play, but extend your contract, because when this guy's gone, like, you're back in.
Sancho's back, right?
He's back. Yes. He started to get back into, he was really rusty at first. I don't know if they're going to keep him. They might keep him. It might end up being that they keep him.
He's on loan too then?
Yeah. They brought in two guys on loan. Another guy was from Chelsea, Ian Matson. He's a left back. He's been good too. But they can't keep both guys. Both guys, it's just like prohibitively expensive to keep both guys. So Sancho's going to win out if they can keep him. But
have you what other ways have you committed to the Dortmund fandom? Do you have any?
That's about it. Although I will say that I've done it enough that like if I wanted to back out now, I don't know that I even could. I don't want to back out, but I don't know that I even could, because my son has now gotten into them as a team.
Oh,
even
cool.
though he doesn't watch like a ton of the games with me or anything, but he like they'll have like, you know, wear your favorite sports team jersey to school. He's got this like, Dortmund jersey. He puts on his Dortmund jersey, and I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I mean, I gotta stick with it. He's like, you're going to a game and you're not taking me. I'm like, yes, that's right. We're not taking you. So he's like, he's going over last night. Like, this is how you can signal me if I'm watching the game on TV. You put a big red sign. I'm like, their colors aren't red, man. It's like, but that's why they'll see it. I'm like, no. I'm like, we'll do something different. How about we just put your name on a sign? If you hold that up, won't that be a good enough signal if you see your name? So,
Oh man, I remember the need to be seen when I was young at sporting events. It was like
yeah,
a dream come true, right?
right.
Being recognized in the greater world.
Well, you'd
Uh,
also like you'd call your friend. There'd be signs at games. I remember I used to go to like a decent amount of Bears games. And there'd be signs at games where I'd ask my friends later, "Oh, did you see that sign?" Because it'd be kind of edgy, and they're like, "No, I didn't see any sign like that." So like there were signs people would put up that like clearly on TV those were not going to go on.
in eighth grade, I started watching wrestling like midway through my seventh grade year, and in eighth grade, WCW Nitro came to the Arco Arena in Sacramento, and my mom got me tickets. It was right around my birthday, and I went with my two best friends, and my mom went, and another parent went, and we were 4 rows back on the camera side, or like camera facing us. These were 3-hour episodes, so we were like front and center on Raw or on Nitro for 3 hours, and we all had signs and stuff, and like it's just
Did
amazing.
you
Like,
get on?
oh, we were on the entire
Oh, okay.
time
So yeah.
because
So I was waiting for the kicker to the story to be like, we weren't on for even a minute.
no, we were on for 3 straight hours, and it was the case. Like we went to school the next day. It's like we were like celebrities. Like, yeah, of course we saw you, man. You were there the entire time. It's
Right.
incredible.
Right.
I still have the videotape, and it's just
Of
hilarious.
course.
I think
Right.
we
Of
each made
course.
like 2 signs.
Yeah. No, that's
So,
great. No, that's
yeah.
great. That's great. It's like who was I talking? I was talking about somebody today about how like it's crazy when you see someone on TV who right? And it's like
Yeah.
weird because you're looking at them on TV and like it's a familiar face, but you've not seen them in that like scenario. There was a guy who played keeper on a few of my teams, like at like Chicago Fire rec soccer. When the World Series was in Chicago, when the Cubs were in it, the guy's from Cleveland, so he's a Cleveland Indians fan. And I'm watching the game, and you have to do like a double take. He was like on TV, and you do a double take, and you're like, oh yeah, I've just never seen him on TV before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. But it's kind of surreal when you see somebody on TV.
I in general, I like recognizing a familiarity with a face and having to kind of decode my past with them. Like, where is it? Where is it? It's
You just hope it leads to an answer that's not.
hey,
who the
that
hell is
bathroom
that?
stall in
Right.
2008.
Who the hell is she? Oh. Hmm.
So I feel like I don't know. What's your preferred position on the pitch?
On the pitch? I would have said defensive midfield when I could still run. But
Yeah.
I would say left back now. I like to play left back or left midfield.
What who do you seek out as a favorite player? What type of player do you like most?
What type of player? You meaning like
Is that an
to
aesthetic
watch?
thing to watch as a fan?
Um, yeah, it's an aesthetic thing. I also think it's like guys who are just like do something different, who are like interesting players. To see guys do things that you don't normally see. Like I mean, I like when the first time I like watched like Erling Haaland, and I was like, oh geez, like I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's kind of aesthetic, but I kind of like the guys who offer something different.
So who are those players right now? Like you'd go out of the way to watch their highlights?
Well, Holland would be one of them. I would say in Bellingham. Bellingham, I don't know that's highlights, but that's a guy who's I really liked to watch because he just does everything. He's just, and you just it's like you see everything he does during a game, and there's like no weakness. Like he kind of does everything for your team. So
Yeah.
I like watching him play a lot. I'm trying to think, like try to come up with some other guys. Like actually, I like watching Gio Reyna play.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I think he's a lot of fun to watch. The trying to think the other guys like Rafael Leao. That's another guy I like to watch. I'll throw a shout out. I mean, I'll throw one out, a bone out to Pandy.
How about Doku? Doku's fun,
Doku,
exciting, right?
yeah, Doku too. Yeah, the guys who are kind of fun.
Yeah,
I used to always like I like De Bruyne too because he's like, you know, he doesn't look like much when he's playing, but like he always hits the ball and he's always open. Like he's
yeah,
got the ball, and I'm like, how did you figure out how to get the ball where like no one was around you?
yeah.
So those are kind of interesting ones.
It's a
Who's the guy?
mystical quality to a play.
What's that?
A mystical quality to
Yeah,
a play.
mystical quality. There you go. Because a lot of teams don't play with kind of the number 10, like the Maradona or the Zidane anymore. It's usually just like, you know, midfielders who do, you know, industrious midfielders, kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But and then I'm trying to think. Anyway, those are a few guys. I liked, you know, if you're talking keepers, even though I've like found that I actually kind of don't like Bayern Munich now, which is kind of cool.
yeah,
I always liked watching Neuer when, you know, when he was in his prime, because it was so he affected so much of the game. Like, keepers are like good with their feet, you know, like now, like it's kind of standard, you got to be, but they're not usually. It's usually with distribution. Like his ability to break up attacks was like pretty impressive. So like, you know, you could just, it made you think a little bit. You're like, okay, well, oh, I get it. So like they can press higher because if someone tries to dump it over the top of them, like you don't have any space to do that because he'll just come sweep it up.
sure.
So it was kind of interesting to watch him play. Like that was kind of like a different quality that he brought.
Is he still out?
No, he's playing now. He's not. I don't find him to be quite at the level he was. I mean, he's still a very good keeper, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. I don't think his athleticism is what it was. So I think he's a little bit more cautious about how high he plays.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not that quality about him as much anymore. But I mean, even a lot of the, you know, like the Brazilian guys in the Premier League, you know, the keepers there who are good with their feet, they're not always like breaking up attacks. A lot of it is like their team has the ball and they're moving the ball, which is still impressive, but it's not the same thing.
How about in a manager? What a desirable
I'm not going
attributes
to like other than the obvious, right? Like anyone could say Pep. Like who would be a manager that I would?
Well, what do you? I mean, what features do you particularly, gravitate towards? Who are your favorite managers? Maybe who would you want to play for?
Oh, okay. Who would I want to play for? I like you know, honestly, I like the Bundesliga because they'll take guys who are not maybe well known, maybe didn't play, but like they trust their coaching education so much in Germany that you get these like young guys who are who are coaching, who you never heard of as players. So, you know, somebody like somebody like Nagelsmann, or who's like a little bit younger, has a little bit more like fresh ideas, even though I heard like guys didn't like him very much at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I mean, what your deficit is probably you don't have the social skills and the experience to really work a locker room, right?
Right. Yeah, that would
like
be
Tuchel's probably in that category.
Yeah, Tuchel definitely is in that category. Yeah, Tuchel's got like a shelf life when he shows up at a team, right? It's like, okay, Tuchel, cool. We're gonna be good for about 6 months, and then the wheels are really gonna come off. But
offend too many people.
I like the who was I just gonna say?
Roy Hodgson.
Roy you want to stay mid-table, stay out of that drop zone. You get Roy Hodgson. He's gonna keep you out of there, man. They I don't know that I'd want to play for him because he seems like kind of a hard ass, but the guy at Freiburg is just like one of the most entertaining guys. Yeah. And he's so successful for like a club that spends like less than like 3/4 of MLS teams on like their players. Like, I'm just like, they're like borderline Champions League every year, and he's just like a maniac. So I'm like, I don't know if I would love playing for him. It like might be a little neurotic, but it's like kind of cool to watch him, do his thing. Watch them pull out victories against teams that are spending. Yeah, even the Bundesliga, they don't spend a lot more. I mean, they had, what was it? They played West Ham in the Europa League, and the difference in payroll was like 120 million euros per year. Was like the difference in total payrolls between these two teams. And eventually, like the second half of, I think it was like the second half of the second leg, like the wheels came off and West Ham ran through them. But like for a while there, you're just like, man, look at this. I'm sure the cost of living's much lower in Freiburg than London, but geez, this is impressive how he's able to pull this off.
So, well, when you got the underdog card to play too in the locker room, I mean, I feel like you can get through that first half with just pure spite.
Yeah. I mean, they I think they won the first leg, but you got this impression West Ham's like, okay, be nice to come out of here with in the lead, but I think they were like, we wanted a draw. We got a 1-goal loss, right? You got the impression like West Ham didn't quite have their foot all the way on the gas, but yeah, like watching Freiburg punch above their weight. Union Berlin was another fun team to watch. There was like
how fast they fell, huh?
Although I think they're going to stay up, at least. But yeah, they fell fast. They have a cool stadium, and the other thing that's great is they're a former East German team. They're from Berlin, but they're from East Berlin. They were on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
And they but the way I described it is, if you've ever heard somebody say, "Hey, that was a good early ball," that's basically their whole system. Like when you're near the ball and you could take another touch, don't pass. Like, like if you think another touch would have you hit that cross with like precision, but instead you could hit it when no one expects you to hit it then.
Was it just like training grounds, two touch limit on every player kind of thing?
I mean, it was kind of that. It was more just like guys on crack. It's like sometimes guys would run with the ball, but like when they ran with the ball, they're like taking the ball and going, like they're not just like jogging around looking for a pass. Like they're like, all right, go. So it was like you couldn't take a breath even watching them, because they were just immediately they were turning the other way and just barreling down your throat. And I think at some point, maybe teams got wise to them or something. I don't know, but they were a lot of fun to watch because nobody really played like them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the days when I'm as familiar with the Bundesliga as you currently are, because right now I'm not watching too much just with the son, but my intention is to follow the Bundesliga with him and pick up
you've got the German blood in you, right?
Yeah, I've got relatives over there and stuff. And my best friend abroad is from Freiburg, actually.
Oh, so yeah.
He sent our son a bunch of like a Freiburg baby kit that we took photos in and stuff. Okay. So That could be his club through that association there.
Oh, hey, that would be fun. They have a new stadium now, kind of snuck in under the radar, but because they had a stadium that looked kind of cool, but I guess it was kind of rickety. It wasn't that modern. But now they've got like a new modern stadium, so they've definitely had some money to pour into it. Because, just a minute. What's up? We got like 20 minutes. What's up? All right. Anyway,
we can wrap up here.
Okay.
That's all right.
It was fun.
No, it's best for me because I do want to kind of start putting a more strict time limit on some of these calls just for my wife's. So 10 o'clock is perfect.
Yeah. But, no, it's great. That's great. It was fun. It was good.
Yeah, for sure. It's always good to catch up, and hope to see your face again through this stream and on the pitch, of course.
Yep. Like I said, might not happen. I might not happen tomorrow. I might be there in spirit for hoping maybe I'll get a championship ring if we win. But
for sure.
Yeah, I'll check, obviously next season. So
last question. I've been intending to ask this the entire time. How many miles did you run? And what were do you listen to something while you run?
I don't listen to anything when I run. I run every day in the morning. I'll run between 3 and 4 miles, somewhere in that range.
Just the thoughts in your head. Is that what it is? Planning out the day?
Yeah. The thing of it is that like I used to not run first thing in the first opportunity, but like the fact that I have the fact that I've just like dropped the kids off and everything, it actually goes kind of fast because it's like the beginning is mindless because I'm just like so much in the like go mode. I don't even know. It's like you don't even notice you're doing it until you're like halfway done. So
you walk them over to the school and then you run from the school. Is that how it works?
Sometimes I run from the school. Sometimes I'll come home, stretch, and then it just depends. Depends on the day. So the walk is kind of long total.
And daily.
They're in opposite directions. Okay. So like if you just had to take one, or if they were in the same place, it would be fine. But it's like a little long because they're in opposite directions. So yeah. So
you run daily?
I run daily. Yeah, I do now.
Jeez, man, yeah. What are you wearing? What are you wearing? Hokas? What kind of running gear do you got?
No, just regular. The kind of like the Adidas running shoes, kind of the style I've been wearing for a while. Man. So
I envy the knees that you have because my running days are long behind me, and I miss them. I love running so much.
There was a time in my life I ran 100 miles a week, so like it's like for me, it's not really like the most crushing thing. I mean, right now, like you add like 30, 40 pounds to my body, like that's a little tougher to carry. But
how many have you done marathons? I take it.
I've never done a marathon. No.
Oh, really? Just not really the racing at all.
I don't think I ever will.
Okay.
So I'm never really had a lot of interest in a marathon.
What were you running in college? Like what competition?
On the track, I'd run 5Ks, and then cross country is like 10K. So 8 and 10K. So, I mean, a lot of guys who did what I did, like then when it like stepped up to the marathon, but I'm like, you know what? If it gets to the point that I'm like too distance oriented for a 10K, like I'm just going to hang them up. I'm not going up to the marathon so I can find something to compete in.
Yeah.
So,
all right, man. Well, yeah, that's it.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And I hope this new format kind of more just come as you are. If ever you see that link and you got some free time, jump on.
I'll jump on, for sure. Who is it? Just us right now?
Oh, it's just us, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would like to make the live stream leap one day too. Just be
fun.
So
that's the way it is. It's live, and then you send it out to us after it's recorded.
Yeah, I just I do the YouTube one first, and then I put it into some audio editing app, and there it is.
Nice. Pretty soon you're going to have like world leaders on these podcasts, and you're still going to call it the Winning 11 podcast.
Joel might be the closest thing we ever get to a world leader if I can secure that one.
That's just the bridge, man.
That's true. I got to tell you this one quick story. We got a package sent to our address, but different individual, and that, because it's actually our address, we can't like redirect it to where it's supposed to be. And it's just clearly a t-shirt, and then it was lying in our foyer for like 3 weeks. And I eventually just said, like, well, I might as well just open this thing. I'm sure they probably went back through Amazon and got another one. And it's a Kim Jong-un, like double-sided full shirt, like full print. It's on the back and front, the same image, and he's doing the blood sign. It's like, so I have this thing in my closet, just like, who the fuck orders this?
It's a shirt or it's a jacket?
It's a shirt. It's a t-shirt that's like double-sided print, even on the sleeves and everything. It's just Kim Jong-un with the blood sign. And
wow.
like,
are you gonna wear it ever?
I don't know where, even as like I'd feel so uncomfortable wearing anything like that. And I don't know who.
One year, my brother got me a North Korea soccer shirt. You might even see it.
Yeah, I've seen you wear that.
Right. And I remember we did, I went to Lincoln karaoke for some friend's birthday, and I wore the shirt because I was like, oh yeah, Korean karaoke. And like, I felt so self-conscious the whole time I was there. Like, this was like the second I got there, I was like, this was maybe a little too aggressive. So I get it.
No, with actual Koreans, that is not
I get it.
No one's laughing at that point.
Right.
Yeah. But so I'm glad you can relate to my not wanting to wear this apparel.
It's kind of coincidental that we can share an experience so specific.
Yeah, really. Except, well, yeah, they were both kind of gifted to us, one through fate, one through a sibling. So
you were meant to have it.
Well, we should put aside one time where we can both wear these things and feel awkward and self-conscious together.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right.
Maybe that's our second podcast together where we pull them out.
Right. Go to like Korean barbecue and dressed with the just inappropriate shirts.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your time at your parents' place, and have a happy Easter.
Yep, you too.
And we're gonna bring home that chip tomorrow. You better well believe it.
I bet we will.
Yeah.
So, all right. Cool.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. All right. See you, Rich.